All right. So brand number one, we're going to talk about Magic Spoon. Is everybody familiar with Magic Spoon? Does anybody listen to podcasts? You've probably heard their commercials. Magic Spoon, they sell cereal. They sell cereal online as a subscription service, which I think is kind of interesting. Everything is sold as a subscription service, so why not cereal? Magic Spoon is founded in New York City in 2019, and they focus on sort of this bright lifestyle, sort of fun illustration based, I don't know, aesthetic. I think, like I mentioned before, they're really focused on podcast advertising at the moment, which is where I heard of them. And I think what they do really well is, from a brand perspective, they have a really clear call to action. They sell a single product, albeit with different flavors. And I think they do that in a really fun and interesting way. I think sort of the main thing that Magic Spoon does well is they evoke a sense of nostalgia. I think, pulling these images from their Instagram account, I think there's direct correlation to these advertising and design pieces from the 70s. This sort of bright, colorful, stylized illustrations, really sort of really attractive and appealing. There's another one. I think there's a direct correlation between the Point album cover from Harry Nilsson and this particular cover. I mean, I think there's a direct correlation here, and I think that's a really interesting thing as they're trying to, this is a subscription service, so you're going to have to be an adult to buy it. It's not something you as a kid can sort of like beg your mom for at the grocery store or your dad for at the grocery store. It's also not inexpensive. It is 4 boxes for $40 unless you subscribe, in which case it's $25. So it is a premium product, premium cereal product. I think, one of the great things Magic Spoon does design-wise is they have fantastic illustrations. It's got this grown-up kid vibe with this fun and approachable design. Website, as you scroll it, as you saw in the video before, it's really fun to navigate. There's little things you can click on, and those are just for fun. I think it really does a good job at evoking this sort of childlike nostalgia that I myself had. I think is why I sort of gravitated towards this particular brand as we were sort of deciding what to choose. And I last night I went through and watched a whole bunch of old kids and cereal commercials on YouTube, and it was really surprising how similar a vibe these things have. I know this is sort of retro nostalgia through the 2020 lens, so it's a lot slicker, but they're definitely pulling all of those feelings in. Another great thing about their website is, since they only really have one thing to sell you, their call to action and navigation is really simple. It's shop now, buy our product. And you can learn a little bit more, but the focus is really on buying. The value proposition for the product is pretty simple. It's everywhere. It's on their boxes, and it's huge. So it's high in protein, it's low carb, and it tastes good. Your mileage may vary based on what kind of cereal you like. But this is pretty simple message. Their product page also really well designed. Talking about a variety pack. They show you these 4 boxes of cereal. They're showing you exactly what you're going to get. You can also choose create a bundle box, and they have a nice interface for this. I think it's really well done. You can go through and add up to 4 boxes of whatever flavor you want. You can add all 4 of one flavor. You can add all 4 of different flavors. This is a pretty intuitive experience. I think, again, like differentiating their product line with these like bold colors and great illustrations, as well as this simplified checkout. Really like everything you need to know about Magic Spoon can happen on this one page. Create your bundle, add it to the cart, check right out. This is where my slideshow fails here. Part of their advertising strategy is not only podcasting, but it is email marketing. So recently they're leading up to their fall and holiday season flavor drops, as they call them. The email design on the left here. They're sort of teasing that fall flavors are coming, and give us your text fall magic to 58504 and you'll get early access. You get to know about what's coming before anybody else does. And when they drop these new flavors, a similar email with the flavor names, but also that heavy branding and illustration. And then when you click over, they want you to buy 4 more boxes of cereal, 2 boxes of each flavor. And I think all of this is pretty compelling. Their advertising is nice. Previous campaigns they've done like gingerbread flavored cereals. They kind of got these fun sort of traditional flavors, and then they kind of break out these wild flavors for the holidays or special occasions, that kind of thing. I'm going to hand it over to Lily to talk about their marketing.
Thanks, Matt. So as Matt mentioned previously, from a brand marketing perspective, they really leaned super heavily into that, selling that feeling of nostalgia. So I think that everybody, depending on what generation you're from, everyone has that vivid memory of the cereal commercial when you were a kid. For me, it's Tricks Are for Kids. And I think that cereal marketing as a product category tends to be really fun, really bright, happiness 100% guaranteed. But the spin on this is that they are offering consumers what they really want. A lot of adults have stopped eating traditional cereals because it's really sugary, not super healthy. So I think that Magic Spoon, digging into this brand a little bit, was interesting to see what direction they've gone in. I think it's an excellent product market fit, and people have a real affection for this category. So something that I noticed, as Matt said, they've leaned really heavily into is podcast marketing. I think that this can be cost prohibitive for some smaller brands because it is really, really expensive. But clearly they had a lot of capital behind them. So if you've ever heard if you listen to Pod Save America or a lot of other podcasts, they run ads pretty regularly there. And I think it's turned out to be a major acquisition channel for them. Influencer marketing has also been something that I've noticed that they've utilized. I don't think it's a huge cost for them to send out samples of product. So usually they can send out a full line of flavors. It's non-committal. Influencers can try it, taste it, see it in real life, and then negotiate terms from there. And I think that, some people, they really think hard about whether or not a certain product fits in with their brand, but no one says no to free cereal. And also I think that it's notable that the timing of their direct-to-consumer strategy kind of launched at the advent of quarantine. So I think that people got in the habit of purchasing groceries online. Before, it was kind of a niche market or relegated to just meal kits, but I think that that's something that is more common, and habitually, I think that will stick around for a while.
So moving on to the development aspect of Magic Spoon, I think they are very clever with how they're utilizing some more technical aspects of their website in particular. They really consider how the user is going to interact with the page. So you can see in this animation I have on the right, they have an ingredients list, which is very simple and straightforward. And then they allow you to dive a little deeper by hovering over each ingredient to learn more about, why it is that this is important. Where does this come from? What is a little bit more, what's the meaning behind what a sweetener blend is. And I think that that goes really well, really hand in hand with the whole brand concept of being this really like bold statement and then that informational underpinning. And that is that's my general stance on how development should support the design and the marketing for a brand. Generally, the marketing plan or the design element comes first, and then development comes in and says, how are we really going to be able to make that pop? How are we going to be able to really make that important? I think that is just one aspect that is great on their website. Just to dive a little deeper on that, they also are wise with how they are using their development resources and how they're using the page load in particular for their site. The site is very, graphics forward. It's very kind of, loud and bright. And sometimes that does mean you have to sacrifice loading time. But one element that I just wanted to call to attention here was how they are using this animation. So rather than serving like a large bloated animated file, they are putting more of the work on the developer's end to use a CSS animation to make that graphic spin around. So that is something that can be handled programmatically to save on loading time. And I think that is quite a nice touch.
All right, moving on to brand number 2. Lily, you want to take it away?
Yeah, sure. All right, so brand number 2 is Glossier. I chose them. I'm a huge fan, big user, but also they are just industry titans. In the beauty space, their claim to fame is really being the first beauty retailer to be primarily e-commerce. They now have a limited run of stores in brick and mortar spaces in New York and LA, and then pop-up stores in other major metropolitan areas. But their primary community exists online, and it has always existed online. It's actually, I think, the history of Glossier is that they started out as a beauty blog. So just writing articles, getting buy-in, kind of building up that community before they ever switched to e-commerce. And then they already had a loyal following. And it's so unusual because beauty and cosmetics is an industry that relies really heavily on in-person trials. So it's emotional. People want to feel something, they want to try it out, they want to see it in person, they want to hold it. And the ability, like the fact that they were able to transition that experience to online is unheard of in the cosmetic industry. So Glossier's strategy is based on what they call the 3 C's: content, co-creation, and community engagement. So for content, it's very photo heavy. They produce all of their own content, and it's really eye-catching. It's well-produced video imagery. There's a lot of use case footage in their advertising, on their social media. So you kind of get that like peer-to-peer connection. And yeah, it's really highlighting the fact that these products are made for everybody. There's a clear, consistent color story across the board. And this visual representation is really consistent and really strong across their website and all of their social media channels. Moving on to co-creation. So they were really one of the first at the advent of influencer marketing. They really hopped on this train early on to include influencers, tastemakers in the beauty space, and develop a really robust affiliate marketing program. So their aim is to kind of engage their audience and their customers in writing reviews, tagging them, using hashtags to build up a consistent online community. And it increases their visibility exponentially while allowing them to maintain control of their overall creative direction. So essentially, they get this brand awareness push across, different handles, different demographics, and then they with the use of a hashtag, they get to kind of pick and choose, okay, what imagery works well with our creative direction? How can we use this on our site and repost this and repurpose this content? Because the content game is just constantly cranking. So this is a really good strategy. They're able to leverage user-generated content. The third C I'm going to talk about is community engagement. So because they were a blog initially, they kind of already had this rapport with their audience. So people would comment on blog posts, they would reshare. And I really feel like they have transitioned that same feeling into their e-commerce strategy, because their customer audience really feels like they have a say in product development. They really feel like their reviews and their feedback is considered in product development and brand perspective. And also it's fun to, if they use a hashtag and then they're using that content, you feel like you're a participant in that brand. So it's cool. All right, so scrolling through, this is just an example of some of their email marketing. This one is designed for mobile, but you can just see like all of their visual images are really consistent. There's some written imagery, there's products they feature, some call to action, a push for them for their street team, their affiliate marketing, and then back to their Instagram. So they cover all the bases. They do it so well. Talking about holidays specifically, I think this is a 2019 spot for Glossier. And I think that the usage was online and also maybe in television. I only watch Netflix, so I'm not sure. But they really use product bundling. So they make these holiday edits. They group a bunch of kind of consistent, similar products together, best sellers, and then they sell that as a package to either gift or, gift to yourself. And I think that this is so effective because it really, it's heavily discounted, so people can try new products and potentially products that they wouldn't have purchased on their own. And then they get in the habit of using it. They recommend it to a friend. It's a really cost-efficient way for brands to kind of use holiday marketing to create sales all year round.
Moving on to some development items for Glossier, I think that it is important to note that while Magic Spoon was utilizing Shopify to run their e-commerce, Glossier is using Contentful. And Contentful is a content management system that allows for more flexibility. With a makeup line, and specifically with such a broad demographic, there's all kinds of people who are interested in skincare and makeup. They're going to have a larger selection of items. So when you have to consider, many different types of people who are interested in your product and may only be interested in a small portion, then what you want to do is move on to a content management system, or start preferably on a content management system that is going to be able to be tailored in that way. One item that I wanted to kind of bring to the forefront here, Lily mentioned that in-person testing and developing like that emotional connection with a particular makeup or skincare routine is important, and it can be hard to sell, these types of items online. And so that's one of those problems that can be solved with, some development thought behind it. So over here on the right, I have called out their really ingenious review system. So when a user leaves a review for a particular product, they can fill out some information such as their skin type, their age range, their skin tone, and upload photos to go with it. And then someone who's browsing the site for themselves or to purchase a gift for a friend or family member can organize the search results by those criteria. So you might notice, a particular item is doing really well for people with, dry skin, but you think about, oh, I'm buying something for myself, I have oilier skin. You can filter out those reviews and say like, oh, this isn't the best one. I'll want to go look for something else. Or maybe this is even better than I expected. So that is a really intelligent way that development can solve for the problem of having an e-commerce platform where one would traditionally go try something in person.
Then moving back over to design, I think one thing that sort of strikes you immediately is how little design is actually on this site. I mean, it's really focused on this product photography, the sort of bones of the site and the structure of the site. That's all great, but it's really, they're really selling the product, and they do a really good job in terms of art direction and, giving you as much for an online, almost exclusively online shopping experience, giving you as much context and information as you could possibly want so you can make that buying decision. The framework for all this content to fit in isn't too busy, it's not too flashy. Again, it's really focused on that product photography. Taking a look at the product page, there's a lot of information on this page, but I think it's really well laid out. It's got this kind of standard image on the left, information on the right. I think what they do well is all of the sort of thumbnails are easily visible and navigable from the left, and they include videos if necessary. Another interesting thing is as you scroll down this page, the images stay with you, so you're never far away from these strong product shots and these really powerful visuals. Additionally, this iconography is really well designed. As you get familiar with the brand, you're going to see this over and over and over again. It's going to be a nice little touch point as you're quickly browsing through products. I think another thing that Glossier does really well are these color swatches. If you're buying something online that has anything to do with color, a lot of you have probably experienced maybe there's an approximation of a color. Somebody chose the right color from the web safe colors on the to choose the right one for the swatch. Glossier goes a step further and shows you all of the colors on a particular palette. They're actual photographs, they're broken up, and you can really kind of get a good sense of what that's going to look like. Again, really nice easy shopping cart experience. You add something to your bag, it kind of pops right out. They're offering some free samples here. I think that's a really good way to sort of engage with your customers at the point in which they would be excited to purchase something. So offering them something free in addition to the thing that they're actually purchasing from you is pretty interesting. And I thought one thing on their homepage, to jump back to the homepage, was this really nice sort of brand story. They sell skincare products, they sell makeup. So right on the homepage, it says skin first, makeup second, and they kind of walk you through all of those products that they sort of want to be showing you at any given time. Really, really well done here. Brand number 3, Raina.
Yeah, so the brand I selected for this was FFORA. FFORA is a company that created this really cool attachment system for people who use wheelchairs. It's a simple little tool that you can put on almost any wheelchair. And what they are really focusing on is designer aesthetics with a tool of convenience. So rather than having to sacrifice this very fashion-forward item just because it has, a specific use case, they really didn't want to have to make that sacrifice. I pulled out some nice quotes about their sort of concept. They believe in designing a world that's made for everyone. They want to make sure that everyone sees themselves in the products that they use every day. They're using functional design and real life experiences to create beautiful products that just work. I think that is also indicative of their site. They also want to cut curves, not corners, which I thought was a very nice, clever little wordplay. And they specifically call out design bias as well. They mention design bias is real and driven by social bias. Through our products, we aim to spark a conversation to inspire a radical shift in perspective that removes unnecessary barriers for disabled individuals. So their primary product, I suppose the core of all of their products, is this attachment system. It is a little rubberized loop with an attached, I guess it's kind of an oval pocket that all of the items they sell can attach right into. Every one of their products pairs with this attachment as the base. And what I think is really great about their products is the attachment point. That oval is kind of a brand icon as well as an embellishment. And I think that that pairs their concept that, you know, design isn't just functional, it's also can be aesthetically beautiful. The reason I decided to pick this brand was because I thought their site was a very good example of a Shopify site. I have a GIF over here on the right of me scrolling down through the page. And what it's doing is it is waiting to load content until you are at the next piece. And you may notice when we get back around to the top, when the header loads in, it gives us a nice image first, and then there's a delayed load on the text. So it really guides you around the page and kind of relieves the mental stress of finding, you know, where is the information I need. You can just go through as needed and trust that you'll get to where you need to be. One other item that I wanted to call out specifically for being absent. So when I do a lot of gift shopping, I open a lot of tabs because I'm sure, you know, I have one person in mind and I think here are 20 things that they might like, you know, where do I want to go? What do I want to land on? And a kind of modern trend is kind of having this pop-up appear when you change a screen so that if you go to a different tab before you're able to leave, it pops up and says, hey, do you want to do something? And I find that very frustrating and I find that very unengaging. So I just wanted to call attention to the fact that they don't have that here, and I appreciate that. So moving on to their platform, they are, as I said, a really good example of using Shopify. Shopify is going to shine when you have a focused and smaller product range. They have a great fast setup. They're really quick to get off the ground, and they have a lot of baked-in analytics, which I think is what draws a lot of brands to Shopify as a platform. But on the other side, they have a lot of growing pains when you start to expand your store selection, add-ons and templates that you might want to add to your site to, you know, give it more engagement are going to generally cost extra. So as you add to the site, there will be, you know, costs associated not only with purchasing a template, but also making sure it's implemented correctly, and all the time you will have to spend to make sure that it's, you know, working in there correctly. So Shopify really encourages a small unified catalog and one with a very specific demographic in mind. FFORA is brilliant in that every item on their site goes with the attachment system. So they have, even though there is a huge demographic for people who might want or need this, They have manually narrowed it down to, hey, our users are using the attachment system. So they have simplified that very nicely. One of the really lovely features on the site is this selection to determine if their attachment system is going to work with your wheelchair. So it addresses concerns right out of the gate in a really slick and easy to navigate way, to give you that peace of mind to say, like, if I buy this, I'm not just buying something I'm going to have to toss out. This is going to work. It's a tool that is so clever because it's something that's easy to develop, and it is extremely useful. So I think that is just the pinnacle of a good development tool. It's something that's not going to take you weeks to get off the ground, and it is going to give you so much customer satisfaction in return.
Yeah, so I will talk a little bit about FFORA's marketing brand strategy. I think that their tagline says it all with their brand story, designed to be seen. So I thank you, Raina, for introducing me to this brand because I think they're super cool. Yeah, they're all about fashion forward accessories for people who use mobility devices. And it's about starting a conversation about people with disabilities as opposed to shying away from them or hiding them. I think that in their photo assets and all of their creative, they really focus on this value of representation and inclusivity, which I think is really important for brands these days. And it's a good example, sorry, Matt. It's a good example
my
of,
apologies.
That's okay.
Go back here.
Yeah, so I think that brands can tend to get hung up on how can I be seen by everyone? How do I appeal to everybody? And I think this is an excellent example of a brand that caters to a really specific audience and does it in a super, super impactful way. So yeah, for holiday, I think they also utilize this product bundling strategy. In their case, they use these starter kits that include special gifts if you spend a certain amount, branded items and apparel. So that increases brand equity, visibility, loyalty, because people love getting free things, and that giveaway feeling is really fun. And it introduces people to products they wouldn't necessarily have purchased on their own, but would potentially repurchase or recommend to a friend.
Excellent. Taking a look at their design, I think, another sort of similarity you'll see to Glossier is that the photography is the standout here. And I think, the photography and the sort of functionality and movement of the site are kind of what is the really well-designed experience. So, really strong art direction in this photography. Again, they, like Magic Spoon, they have a really simple navigation. It's shop, story, pretty much it. Those are the first two. There's a couple extras, but really the focus is on what can I buy and who we are. A lot of the photography is primarily focused on the lifestyle photography. You land on this website and you're seeing pictures of people, and the products are there, but the products are not the thing that is in focus. And I think that's a really great way to sort of showcase your product in use. I think additionally, especially since these are accessibility products, I think that's really important and really well done here. Another great thing that FFORA is doing is since, again, there's this very simple black and white design on the site, they're using their sort of colorways to great effect. So their product lines have a specific set of colors, and they sort of reuse those everywhere. So they got this blue, pink, yellow, and red that they're using all over the place. But when you see it, it really pops out and draws that eye right in there. And I think they're really doing a great job at, directing this user experience into something that feels like it just sort of feels natural, like the animation with the scrolling and then sort of pulling your eye towards the color as that comes in, that all sort of like works together in a really, really well or really good way. Calling out a couple of specific highlights here. Their product categories are really simple. That everything sort of stems from this base attachment, the clip, and kind of builds from there. And I think, if you shop at something like Amazon, you get this enormous mega menu where they want to sell you everything. I know FFORA is not necessarily a competitor to Amazon, but I think it's really good seeing companies focus on sort of like, what are the 7 things that we sell? Let's make that as clear as possible. And again, calling out the wheelchair finder feature. This is a small but really important detail, and I think they really get it right here. If you don't see your brand name or your model, I think what's really nice is like, tell us and we'll help you figure it out. I think that's really good. So, and if you already know, I think another important thing is if you already know what size your wheelchair is or the rung is, you can manually select it at the same time. So they're providing lots of options to help you get to where you need to be, as well as calls to actions if you can't get there. They're really trying to do a lot of work to win your trust as a customer. And we're going to introduce Eric, another developer at iBec, to talk about website performance, because I think that's an important thing that runs through all 3 of these brands is how websites perform.
Yeah, hello there. Just to wrap it up with the site performance here. And, the brands we mentioned, they all sort of share a similar code base and really take advantage of some popular methods used to provide a positive user experience and actually higher SEO ranking. So really sites with a longer load time typically have higher bounce rates, which simply means that users spend less time on the site by quickly hitting the back button while waiting in their browser there. Some popular methods for reducing load time include enabling file compression and optimizing code through a process called minification, which is really just removing spaces, commas, and other unnecessary characters from the code itself. Another option is to utilize to call a content delivery network, or CDN, which consists of geographically dispersed network of servers, which actually have a copy of the site. So the user will load the site from the closest server. So since I'm in Portland, Maine, it makes sense for me to download from a server in Boston rather than LA. Also, it is advised that render blocking JavaScript is removed. So really, when a site is loaded, browsers parse the HTML before the page is actually rendered. So if a script is encountered early on in this process, it must stop and execute before proceeding and sort of really hold things up. So scripts should be loaded later on within the page. And these methods are all really the heavy hitters, many other ways to do it, but that's what I want to talk about, and that should really wrap up the presentation here.
Yes, thank you all for joining us, and we've got some time if anybody has any questions or wants to chat about anything. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask.
Okay, this is a totally stupid question. I'm completely a novice when it comes to website development, and our website is pretty basic. We're currently selling our product through, which is frozen perishable seafood, through Squarespace. If we wanted to go more like the models we've just been shown, where it's integrated onto our direct website without having to be like having the customer transition to Squarespace and have it more visually appealing, is that possible while maintaining it through Squarespace, or do we have to build our own shopping platform on our website that's been coded specifically, like where we're not using a third-party purchasing platform?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. I think Squarespace isn't really, I think you can, use Squarespace as an e-commerce platform, but it's not really intended for primary e-commerce. My recommendation would be for the cleanest user experience would be to swap over to something that is more integrated, so that you are using, you know, a Shopify or a WooCommerce, something similar. But depending on how it is set up, it's certainly possible to have it be a little bit more streamlined. I would want to look at the particular case and be able to like give a more clear recommendation there, because without actually having it in front of me, it's a little hard to say for sure.
No
Do you know
worries.
what, do you know what website or platform your primary website is on?
That's a good question. I actually do not. Okay.
Okay.
I wonder if my boss would mind me just sharing our website. But you can look us up. We're American Unagi. So we're still in the growing phases. And we sell domestic grown fresh eel to sushi restaurants and direct to consumer.
Yep.
Yeah. So we're looking to revamp our website and streamline online e-commerce. So it's a little bit more intuitive and nice, I guess.
Sure. Yes, I mean, there might be an e-commerce solution for whatever your current website is based in, which might make a transition a little bit easier, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions? All right. Well, I think we can wrap it up if there's nothing else. Thank you all for coming today and joining us. I think it was a fun presentation.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Take care.
Bye,
Thanks,
thanks everyone.
everyone.
Thank you.